Pistons just didn't have enough for this one tonight, and they go down to the Hawks. Trey Young hit a tough shot, man. Tough shot. At the end of the shot clock buzzer, left 1.6 seconds. The Pistons, they just couldn't do anything on the inside. But we're about to head to the press conference and talk about it. Cade did show out, but the defense let up too many points tonight. So let me know what you guys think. What up, though, people? It's not a victory show, but it is Wake Up Woodward. And I know one thing, we're grateful that you guys have chosen to kick off the day with the Woo crew. And we got a whole show planned for you. We got a whole show for you. It's your boy, Brandon Dent, a.k.a. Detroit Kool-Aid, your credentialed Pistons reporter and writer for the network. And Flannel Sam, vet of the squad, vet of the network, Red Wings correspondent, all sports Nora. What up, though, brother?
That was a heartbreaker last night, I'm not going to lie. You know how I feel about the Atlanta Hawks. Really thought that the Pistons were going to win that one, but honestly, as the game was shaping out, it just felt like the Pistons were in an uphill battle damn near from the middle of the second quarter on. And I know they took the lead late in the fourth quarter, and of course Trey Young then hit a three to give it right back to Atlanta. It was just a tough loss, and unfortunately we gotta break down the heartbreaking losses just like the exhilarating wins.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing about those Detroit Pistons is this. JB Bickerstaff said something very interesting a couple times now. They're learning. Yeah. And when you have the target on your back, and it inspired a question that I did ask B. Stu that we will get into. But you know what? You want to tell the people what we are talking about? And then I'm going to tell the people why I'm dressed kind of spiffy today.
Yes.
Got the suit on. Got some things planned today.
Well, we got to break down the Pistons' loss to the Hawks, but of course, the biggest news, not just in Lions talk, but in the entire NFL, is that All-Pro defensive end from the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett, has requested a trade. Oh, by the way, the Los Angeles Rams are going to look to trade Mr. Cooper Kupp. So this is a transactional Tuesday. That's what this show is. It's kind of themed that way. And if we've got time, there's a certain Lions former assistant coach that got a promotion to another organization, and I just want to pose the question, we'll either get to it today or tomorrow. Is he the one that got away? But first, tell us why you're dressed so spiffy.
Hey, you know what? There are a couple of events today. One of the things that I love about this season, covering the Pistons, is that they're winning on the court, they're winning off the court. And it makes me proud to see, because that was what a lot of people were saying. It was getting so cynical to the point they were like, yeah, that's awesome what you guys did for all those families, but can we get some dubs, though? So now they got dubs in the chat on both sides of the thing, and today there's a couple of events here. You guys know on this platform we talked about the legend Earl Cureton, Detroit legend as well, UDM Titan. They're actually, he did a lot of work to help restore and be a part of the restoration of St. Cecilia's Gym. We know that there have been many legendary players who started their careers there, like Magic Johnson and Greg Kelser. That's where they actually met. That's where they devised. JB will love this. Remember, he said it on the show. That's where they devised, shout out to Greg Kelser, to go to Michigan State together and go do work. And so it was awesome to hear from Earl. He was the person who early on, he gave me every interview. He would seek me out, and he would ask about my family. He was very personal. He would ask about, hey, what are the things I can do to just help you? And it was an awesome thing. I would always interview him, and he would always turn it around at the end. So shout out to him. They're going to be renaming the street out in front of St. Cecilia's Gym, or down the side of St. Cecilia's Gym, after Earl Cureton. And then right after that, it's still a little somber because it is Black History Month. And the Detroit Pistons are going to host their 20th annual Black History Month scholarship event. This is hosted by Rick Mahorn. Why I say somber is because it's generally been hosted by Rick Mahorn and Earl Cureton. So looking forward to be down there with kind of the Pistons brass and such. And you know what? We might have a pretty important interview with one Dwayne Casey. That we will have that on the show tomorrow. So Stick and I, we were already talking about it. Pistons PR. They said that they're actually looking forward to this. So I'm looking forward to being able to sit down and talk to Dwayne Case, who's currently Detroit Pistons front office executive. He's one of the VPs now. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a fantastic event, and I'm glad that we're able to put it on in the city of Detroit. Of course, continuance RIP to Mr. Earl Cureton.
Thank you for that, man. And just, man, the Detroit Pistons, Atlanta Hawks, 132-130 loss. And this from the start, you could just tell there was energy that was just not there for the Pistons that the Hawks had. Obviously, stretch of games, and now we're on the second game of the back-to-back. You have to win those games, and they're learning that. And that's what allows me to just kind of sit back and know, I think they got the right recipe, so let me just see who they are through trends of the season rather than the overreact, underreact game by game by game. And there was something interesting that J.B. Bickerstaff also stated, too. They're having to learn to play now with the target on their back. They're not surprising anybody. People are showing up to pop them. Why? Because they're also talking and running their mouths. And so it's putting these other teams in a position where, Trey Young loves it, man. Trey Young loves to talk. He loves to yap. And I'm going to get to what Beef Stew had to say about this target on their back. And shout out to Jennifer Hammond, to a Fox 2. She was there last night and always has some good things to say about Woodward Sports. But you know what, man? My son, you might like this, my youngest son. Both of them, Kid Kool-Aid and Junior Kool-Aid, were watching the game last night, right, brother? And my wife texted me like, yo, the Suns are heartbroken at the end of it. And I said, why? They were like, I don't know, but they're just yelling, I hate Trey Young. I hate him. And he just falls down and he's never even touched. And he just gets the fouls. And I'm just like, you know what? They understand it, man. They understand it. I'm so glad to know that they have picked it up. I didn't even instill this in them. They just picked it up naturally. Well,
it's hard to watch Trey Young for any longer than 2 seconds and like the guy, unless you're an Atlanta Hawks fan.
And he's only 8, bro. My son's only 8.
My takeaway from last night's game, and you're right, you can't overreact to losses, but I'm mad because it's the Atlanta Hawks. But I will say this. Yeah. I hate Trey Young. I hate his foul baiting. I hate that he looks like a little rat on the court. I hate all of that. The foul baiting, it happened at least 10 times. I was there.
Hate his hat. Hate his hair.
Hate it. Oh, I definitely hate his hair. Comb that shit, please. Whoa. But, however, do you know what I hate more than anything that I just said? The fact that I've got to give that man a lot of credit for how he played last night. Because I'm not going to have Trey Young derangement syndrome. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Trey Young was absolutely big time last night. 34 points, 9 assists on only 16 shots. That's what you can't let Trey Young do. Be hyper efficient. And that's what Trey Young was last night. And it was, of course, punctuated by that game-winning shot that he hit right over Malik Beasley, who was playing good defense, by the way. Yep. It was just better offense. And I was at that game again for the 3rd time in a row. And as Trey Young was dribbling it down, I was thinking, is that man going to dribble out the shot clock? But of course, he was able to put one up with literally like 0.5 left on the shot clock. A really tough jumper that he was able to hit, like I said, right in the face of Malik Beasley. It was a heartbreaking game. I hate the fact that I have to give Trey Young credit. But if you're Trey Young, he's probably feeling like he got snubbed from the All-Star game and is trying to get the Atlanta Hawks season back on track. And when he's on, he's damn good, and he still leads the NBA in assists, and he's still capable of going for a 34-9 burger on any given night, and that's just what he did. And there's no Trey Young slanders today. He played great. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, that's all that there is to it, man. You definitely tipped the cap to him. All my family down in Atlanta, I've heard from them already. I woke up this morning to a text message of my cousin sending me a Trey Young. Look at this, dog. What is this? Like, come on, cuzzo. Like, what are we doing here, man? And it's like, you know what? It's all fun and games, and we can do this now and laugh about it because the Pistons are actually making noise right now. Because when you still look at the standings last night, this is a game that I would have loved to see the Pistons handle business in. But, hey, I see you down there, Atlanta Hawks. I see you down there in the 23 and 27 zone. Shout out to our Pistons who are 25 and 25, which they've just passed. That means that they did pass the over. The season starting over was 24.5 games for these Detroit Pistons. And that's why I say, you know what? With this team, we definitely will criticize from game to game. We'll talk about the things that we like, the things that we didn't like. But as it relates to this team as a whole, they're exceeding expectation. And sometimes you got to take a step back and view it that way. It's not that you go easy on them in losses, but it's just the fact that I want to see who this team is going to be as it relates to resiliency. When the Lions would have a letdown, who are you going to be? Who are you after the next turnover? Who are you after the first loss? And that's what I want to see out of this squad. You know, if you get a loss or two, are you able to stave that off and fight back with some character? And what we've seen from them this year is that they've been able to do that pretty effectively. And hey, let's hear from Beef Stew about this target on his back. And he also spoke to what J.B. Bickerstaff spoke to. It's interesting. Last year, Monty kept stepping to the podium. Monty Williams, as head coach, saying, oh, man, I got to do better. JB Bickerstaff, when it's on him, he'll say that. But when it's on the players, he steps to the podium, and I wish I cut that up and just says it. Like, no, dog, like their energy. I told them this, and they know it. And we're just like, all right. But let's hear Beef Stew. It's a couple questions here. One from the Hammer, and then one from Woodward Sports. Let's rock.
You said that you guys weren't mentally dialed in, Isaiah. Is that something that you felt, you saw, and can you kind of pinpoint how this?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, we definitely wasn't dialed in on the defensive end tonight. You know, we knew the job we had to do coming out. You know, obviously we got one at their place, and you know, we knew they were coming out with that same energy. So, you know, we didn't match that, and we waited too late to try to turn it off.
Have you all noticed if teams are really turning it on when they know that they're playing the Pistons? So obviously you guys are off to a start where you're within postseason positioning right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, we're definitely I feel like a target now. You know, obviously winning games and you know, turning things around this season. You know, teams are coming to play against us, and you know, they know what kind of game it's going to be.
Yeah, and what's awesome is that he's echoing exactly what we hear the coach saying as well. These players are taking accountability and responsibility in losses and in wins. And that's why I said that you have to learn this stuff. These teams like the Atlanta Hawks right now, for better or for worse, even with their record, they still have a little bit different energy, a little bit different experience that the Pistons are learning about right now. We talked about even the going to work Pistons having to learn to play the right way. That was their whole motto. Even the great Chauncey Billups said that. Larry Brown brought that mantra. You got to learn to play the right way. And I believe that the Pistons are learning to play the right way. With that's going to come some letdowns, but largely I'm looking at who this team is going to be, especially just before this All-Star break. Can you find yourself a couple games above 500?
Oh, I hope so. And man, that would have been a nice one to get, to actually put them 2 games over 500.
I hate losing to the Hawks.
I hate losing to the Hawks too. And what I hate too is what Mark Royal said. And I wasn't even going to give it the time of day, but the chat is giving him hell in return. So I'm proud of you guys. Pistons need Ivey back to finish these close games. Cade isn't clutch in end game situations.
Come on.
Let me just say you a riddle really quick. Who tied the game, bitch? Who tied the game, bitch? Who tied the game, bitch? Cade Cunningham. Did you not see that? Did you not see that? When they were down by 2, Cade Cunningham with the driving layup to tie the game. I understand that he had a late game turnover. I understand that he didn't shoot the ball that well, and you can criticize him for that, I suppose. But the reality is that he still put up 30 points. He was living at the free throw line, 13 of 13, 14 assists, and the Pistons put up 130 points. The reason why the Pistons lost this game was you can't expect in the National Basketball Association, even in a more offensive era, to give up 132 points in regulation and win basketball games. You just can't do it.
Nope.
And Isaiah Stewart said as much in his press conference that the defense just wasn't there. And when I was watching the game, the thing that I noticed, particularly in the first 3 quarters, was the Atlanta Hawks were getting so many wide open looks from behind the arc, and they knocked them down at a 42% clip on 16 three-point shots made. And in particular, it was DeAndre Hunter and Vic Krejci and Larry Nance Jr. were just getting wide open looks way too often. And those 3 combined shot, I believe, 9 of 18 from 3. And then Trey Young, mostly from creating 3-point opportunities himself, shot 4 of 8. And that's ultimately why the Pistons lost, because you can't give up 132 points in regulation in an NBA basketball game and win, even in this era.
Yeah, the Hawks, they ran out lineups where it seemed like they had like 4 wing players on the court at one time, or 3 wing players, Trey and a big, and they were just allowing the wings the permission to just drive and hit the gaps at any point in time. And so it's an offense that they used to run, that college teams and other teams used to run pretty regularly, that I don't see anymore in this 3-point shooting era. About 20 years ago, they did this regularly. This is how everyone was taught again. As soon as the ball swung to you, you hit the dive. If it's not there, you dribble back out. And the Hawks did that time and time again, and what that did was absorb the defense of the Pistons inward, and now they're scrambling once the Hawks pass the ball back out to the perimeter, and then they start swinging around the perimeter, they're trailing. And the Hawks, they put 3 or 4 good 3-point shooters out there around Trey Young, and it was just kind of murder she wrote at that point in time for their defense, and they were trailing, especially with no energy. And just for this Cade Cunningham stuff, it seems like people don't understand the usage that he has and just how much the stats are going to be inflated across the board, including turnovers and missed shots. People focus on what he didn't do, but clutch moments are considered the last 5 minutes, and sometimes people increase that to the last 5.5 minutes of the game. I know the NBA officially recognizes the last 5 minutes for clutch points. Cade entered the league as one of the top clutch players in all of the NBA. And Kevin Durant in his rookie season talked about it. But just in last night's game, Cade started off when it was 119 to 113 with the Hawks in the lead, right? Cade hit 2 free throws at the 5:34 mark. Cade hit 2 free throws at the 5:25 mark. We're up to 4 points. Cade hit a 27-point three-pointer at the 4:51 mark. So you telling me that my man in 30 seconds just put up 7 points, and now the Pistons are 121 to 117. But what kept happening? Trey Young was answering. Cade at the 406 mark, another free throw. That's 8 points. Cade Cunningham, another 2 free throws. That's 10 points. Cade Cunningham, a 4-foot 2-point shot to tie the game. We're talking about 12 points in the last about 5 minutes of the game. That's insane. And people want to focus on effectively if there's a mistake or two here or there from a player who gave you the opportunity to have a chance to win. There are so many other mistakes and so many other things that happen that I don't put a loss like that on a Cade Cunningham. Criticize him, yes. Do you want him to be better? Yes. Do you want him to tighten up the handles and be perfect? You definitely want him to. But when you don't have a number 2 and a number 3, like some of these other players out there in the league have, these are some of the things that's going to happen when your usage is at like insane levels of 30 plus per game. These just happen. But you can't overshadow the fact that they had an opportunity to win that game last night because Cade put up 12 points in the last 5:34 in the game. Like it just is what it is. And there was nothing they could do with him after that point in time. It just is what it is.
Well, and the thing is, and you're right, the people's definition of clutch, I think, is very skewed to did you hit the game-winning shot or not. However, if you want more of the what you think is clutch, if all you want to talk about is did you hit the game tie or did you hit the game winner, Cade literally hit the game tying shot. Yes, he turned the ball over when the Pistons had possession with an opportunity to take the lead.
Bad design. He shouldn't be taking it out.
Absolutely. I get it, but at the same time, he did what it took to tie the game. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't just him. Malik Beasley had a great night shooting from 3. Jalen Duren offensively was catching lobs left and right and dunking the ball, which we love to see as well. I thought Asar played well, but my thing is, yes, 8 for 23 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3. That's not great. That's not something that Cade probably thinks is acceptable, and quite frankly, it's not. But I just don't like when people make blanket statements. If you want to say he's got to shoot better last night, I am totally with you. If you want to say that he shouldn't have got the ball stripped from or that play design to Tobias was a little bit bad, maybe the pass wasn't great, I'm with you on that. But when you make blanket statements like you need someone in there to close games because Cade Cunningham can't do it, that's where I get off the highway with you, because I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, for everybody who thinks I'm insane for thinking there are Ivey bros out there, wink, wink, wink. And I don't hate Ivey, by the way. I love Ivey. It's just the taking away of credit from one to give it to the other. I don't like that.
Yeah. What last night did highlight is, the absence of Ivey. Ivey and Cade were really developing into a special backcourt duo, and that backcourt, that kind of off guard and backup facilitation is what we're missing with Jaden Ivey. And then down the stretch of games, we saw that he was able to get downhill. He was able to put pressure on the defense. And one thing they're missing right now that they don't quite have, and it's kind of sporadic when they get foul calls or not, Jaden Ivey forced issues with fouls. His free throw rate coming out of college was awesome, and he trajectorized to have one similar to that of Dwayne Wade in the NBA. And that, to me, is what they're also missing. He used to be a guy who could go in there and instantly put 2 fouls on the defense. After you get 4, you're shooting free throws the rest of the way. And there's some of those calls where a guard is able to play a little bit more aggressively on Cade Cunningham that if Jaden Ivey was there earlier in the game, we kind of track some of this stuff. Those would be free throws for Cade Cunningham, whereas now it's take the ball out on the side. So there's these little ripple and domino effects of not having a player like Jaden Ivey there, that now all of a sudden you're having to get a little bit more from other players who don't quite have his skill set, but they're actually be doing a lot more. We talk about next man up with the Lions, and we accepted that, we're getting the best of some of these guys. We're getting the best of Pascal when he was stepping up. We're getting the best out of Vildor. We're getting the best out of some of these rotational guys. And that's what's happening right now. And you need more. You do, because what we saw to Tobias and Jaden and Duren last night, I thought was actually pretty good.
And you know what?
need
Shout
that
out to
more
Tobias
often.
Harris as well. He's had 3 really good games in a row, and I wish that we could come in today and just give him a lot of credit. I was hoping I could ask Chase and JB if they would give him one attaboy, but I'm not going to do that after a loss, even though it wasn't Tobias Harris's fault. And that's okay. That's all right, JB. They lost. But someday, I'm hoping that Tobias Harris can continue to play well and the Pistons can continue to win like they did the previous 2 and unlike they did last night, and JB and Chase can finally give him one attaboy. I'm not asking you to say that it was a great signing. I'm not asking you to say that you love what he's done all year. I just don't want you guys to have blind derangement syndrome. I had to get up here and give a shit ton of credit to Trey Young. You know how much that pains me? I hated it. But when you drop 34 and 9 assists on 16 shots, including the game winner right in Malik Beasley's face, there's nothing that I can say. Absolutely nothing. And I hate it. And do you know what else I hate more than anything? More than all of this? All these things I hate revolve around me. Shout out Bullet for my Valentine. But anywho, the thing that I really hate is that I come in here and you have a couple of people who use this game to basically crap all over Cade Cunningham and say that he isn't clutch. Here's what I'll ask you. Where were you after the 40 burger? Where were you after the 22 point and 15 assist game? Where were you at the beginning of the year when they played the Hawks at Little Caesars Arena and Cade Cunningham hit the game-winning layup? Where were all you guys there? Quiet as a bleeping mouse.
I got one too. Because they're better than NBA coaches. They know better than NBA coaches, right? Where were you when Cade Cunningham was voted by NBA coaches as an all-star? That's the point. It's like, now you're silly. I don't think people understand, like, the certification that now comes with them actually winning, them exceeding everyone's expectations, even the trolls, them exceeding coaches' expectations, to the point that the narrative now is, it's the Pistons. You have to talk about us. You got to put us in MVP conversations. Cade is coming in at like number 11, I believe, on the latest one. You have to. And so it's just like, now you just sound very, very silly. Did we always know that the skill set was there? Yes, we did. Did we know that they had to figure some things out as it relates to stability of the organization and as well as his outlook after the leg surgery? Yes, we did. Do we know that they need to put a little bit more around him even now? Yes, we do. But just look at just this marginal, just drop in the water, and look at how already this team, 25 and 25 through 50 games. They had 32 games left in the season. That's it. That's it. And all-star guy on a trajectory where people aren't even saying, well, is he an All-NBA? People are just saying, yeah, he's on a trajectory. He's on a crash course for All-NBA, especially if he gets a top 6 spot. And people are saying, man, you know what? If they match up with the New York Knicks, that could be very favorable. Why? Because we've seen. Why do people say that? It's because of one person.
It's because of one person.
The last 6 games in Madison Square Garden is because of Cade Cunningham.
Yep.
And that's what I'm talking about. So it gets silly. It gets to the point where now those types of people, you almost just ignore it because it's no longer about actual basketball conversation, because that starts in the NBA and the coaches say he's an all-star. The stats say he's an all-star. The stats say he's putting up something historical. Only 8 other players in the history of the game have, and this year only 2. Well, LeBron crept back in there. 3 players with that stat line. So I don't know. It's like argue with your mama. Don't do that. That's disrespectful to her. Argue with a wall. How about that?
Yeah, and obviously it's the minority, and that's a good thing. But despite the poor shooting night, he gave you 30 points and 14 assists on 23 shots. That man, fortunately, and unlike usually, was living at the free throw line. Shout out to the refs for actually calling some fouls on Cade. I thought they called some ticky-tack ones that were committed on Trey Young, but at least they gave Cade Cunningham his free throws. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Last night, that was one of those ones. It was like, there were things you don't like from last night's game from the referees, but at least Cade got his free throws. And KG, man, because I know we're already over, but we had to talk about the Pistons, man. We gave them a whole 30 burger to start. Man, what do you know about these Pistons?
I mean, you pretty much broke it down, but they're a young team. Back-to-backs are tough. Not trying to make excuses for them, but, depending on, seeing how they came out last night kind of indicated, okay, it's going to be one of them nights, and eventually it was. But I'm looking at the macro with this team. You got improved play from Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren. They have really been putting on the last few games, so shout out to them. And I just like how this team is coming together. I like Asar in the starting lineup. I like how Cade is going out there night in and night out and just giving it to the opposing defense. So I'm not mad at what happened last night. They'll be okay. And even if they're one of those back and forth teams, okay, they're under 500, okay, they're over 500, they'll still be hovering around 40 some odd wins. So I think that this team is in a very good spot right now. Just keep playing. Some nights are going to be tougher than others, but just keep going out there, putting your best effort out there, and this team will be fine, especially if we can keep getting your vets balling like they have been and improve play from Jalen Duren.
And one more thing, too. There's benefit to all these home games that they're having right now, back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And then you get an all-star break because they have shooters. Shooters shoot. But the one thing we know is dead legs will drain.
Absolutely.
All day long. The all-star break. Now, you hear J.B. Bickerstaff talk about their chemistry and they're settling in and everything. If they were able to find chemistry during Cade's rookie season to have their best stretch before this season of games, imagine now with shooters. Imagine now with ball creators. Imagine now with young players who are taking that step forward and they're getting a week off to just heal. Sometimes just getting a weekend off. Like the first weekend without Lions coverage, it was sad, but it was like, oh, man, I can breathe. These guys are going to get an all-star break worth of time to be able to be with family, to be able to clear their heads, to be able to let their bodies heal. And we all know anyone who works out, anyone who's played in these types of sports, even as it relates to just rec league, you already understand. You take a couple days, you come back, and you feel like somebody gave you speed, uncut. Yeah. So it is what it is. I look forward to what this team can be post All-Star break, but you have to handle business right now. It would be beautiful if they can go up a couple games over 500. For real.
It'd be nice.
That'd be nice, man.
Can I just say one more thing? And I know that I shouldn't give this guy the time of day.
Hey, hold on, let me do the live.
But Matthew Kruger, do you have an IQ above 40?
Right, where he did.
Do you have an IQ above 40? Because I'm about to drop some facts all up in you. Because this is just probably the dumbest thing ever said in our chat in history.
Whip it out.
Anyone who calls the guy clutch who goes 8 for 23 shooting is crazy. So no other player in the history of NBA has gone 8 for 23 in a game. Did you know that in Game 7 of the 2010 NBA Finals, Kobe Bryant went 6 for 24 and the Lakers still won? Shit like that happens. Did you know that in the 2016 Finals, Game 7, LeBron James, that game where he had the 27-point triple-double, the block, all that, 9 of 24. Did you know that in the 1996 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan had a performance in which he was 5 of 19 and 6 of 19? And oh, by the way, 9 of 22. It happens to everybody. So if you're trying to single out Cade Cunningham as, oh my God, one game he shot 8 for 23, that is the worst single occurrence of the year 2025, and that's not hyperbole. Like, I actually want to kick you out of the chat, Kruger. Thank you for watching. Actually, fuck you for watching. Whoa. Get out. Bye. See you.
And you know what, man?
Just I have no tolerance for idiocy. That's my thing. Like, I'm okay if you want to criticize Cade for last night, like he didn't shoot the ball that well. I get it. He didn't. I know. But blanket statements is just where I want to lose my mind.
Apparently, they would have had a better chance at winning if Cade didn't play, I guess. Is that what they're trying to intimate? Yes. And like I continue to tell people, if you talk about clutch, the one thing that I noticed sitting there watching the game, all of us in media row, including the Hawks media, they were like, oh boy, here he goes. Why? Because you look at the play-by-play from the last 5:30 of the game, and you see an efficient ball player who went to task against the Hawks and brought the Pistons back from a 6-point deficit to be able to win, while Trey Young was still burying threes and hitting shots and getting free throws at the same time. Mm-hmm. To have tied it up when you know you're playing another flamethrower just shows kind of the lack of it just shows that people aren't as kind of cued into what's actually going on in the game. I don't want to insult anybody else's ball knowledge. I'll just tell people, go and look at the play-by-play, go back and look at the game, and that just is what it is, man.
Yep.
It is what it is.
Well,
the refined response.
Yeah, I think I may have given a little bit too much time to some of these folks. But you know what? I just have no tolerance for idiocy after something like that. And there was a lot of idiocy in this chat. But you know what is not idiocy? Myles Garrett on the NFL field. That man is the exact opposite. That man is elite. And he might have just requested a trade, and we've got a lot to break down when it comes to that. But first, I got to tell you about Planet Fitness, where I'm sure Myles Garrett gets some off.